Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Page. In this series we look at the backstories and careers of your favourite comic creators. Today we're looking at Steve Murray, better known as Chip Zdarsky, writer for Sex Criminals, Spider-Man Life Story and Daredevil. Chip Zdarsky is one of the funniest and most unique comic writers working at the moment. But who is he outside the world of comics? Well, in this video we aim to find out. So strap in and get ready as we go Beyond the Page. Steve Murray was born on the 21st of December 1975 and is better known by the pen name of Chip Zdarsky. He is a Canadian comic book artist and writer, a journalist, illustrator and a designer. Didn't mean for that to rhyme. He worked at the National Post for over a decade until 2014 as an illustrator and a humorist under his name Steve Murray. Zdarsky is a co-creator of the beloved comic Sex Criminals alongside Matt Fraction. Other comics attributed to him include Howard the Duck, Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, Daredevil and Spider-Man Life Story for Marvel Comics, and also Jughead for Archie Comics. In 2000, Murray created Chip Zdarsky as a pseudonym and alter ego for his persona as a comic book writer and illustrator, developing his own independent projects such as Prison Funnies and Monster Cops, as well as collaborating on a variety of projects including Dark Horse's comic titles, Fierce and Rumble Royale. About his alter ego, Murray said, "I wanted to have a sad sack cartoonist persona that lived in his mom's basement, painted figurines for money, has restraining orders against him, and that became the character." From 2008 to 2014, Murray penned and illustrated a weekly advice column for the National Post called Extremely Bad Advice. He also wrote another column in the paper, Tearjerk, in which he reviewed films to see if they could make him weep like a baby. In June 2013, Image Comics announced that Chip Zdarsky had teamed up with Invincible Iron Man and Hawkeye writer Matt Fraction on a new creator-owned series titled Sex Criminals. The first issue was released on September 23rd, 2013. Sex Criminals was declared number 1 on Time magazine's list of top 10 comics and graphic novels of 2013. In 2014, Zdarsky won an Eisner Award for Best New Series for Sex Criminals. He actually tells a really funny story about this on his interview with Near Mint Condition, which I will link in the description below. After the success of Sex Criminals, Zdarsky began writing for Marvel on Howard the Duck and has since gone on to write for both Spider-Man and Daredevil. On February 15th, 2017, it was announced that, beginning in June of that year, Zdarsky would be writing a brand new back-to-basics Spider-Man series titled Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, which I've unboxed on the channel. That would run alongside Dan Slott's run on The Amazing Spider-Man. In March 2013, Image Comics announced a sex comedy during the Emerald City Comic Con. Later reports confirmed that it was intended for mature readers and would have Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky in the forefront. Films like The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Bridesmaids and Jackass the Movie were all mentioned as touchstones for the comic. In his interview with Near Mint Condition, Zdarsky said, when asked about his style, "It's hard to define my work because I'm not building a very specific career, I'm just doing the things I enjoy." As previously mentioned, Sex Criminals was first published for Image Comics in 2013 and went on to be nominated for multiple Eisner Awards, including Best Continuing Series and Best New Series. It won the Eisner for Best New Series and a Harvey Award in the same category. Fraction and Zdarsky had known each other for a short time before creating Sex Criminals together. They communicated almost exclusively online, and Zdarsky was the first to suggest a collaboration, at first suggesting writing a fantasy book. Fraction responded with another idea, suggesting, "What if we do a sex comedy about a guy who, every time he ejaculates, stops time?" The synopsis of Sex Criminals is: Susie, a librarian, and John, an actor, meet at a party and end up sleeping together, later shocked to discover that they share the same ability to freeze time when they orgasm. As their relationship develops and their sexual histories are explored, they decide to rob banks where John works in order to save Susie's endangered library. Despite the unique nature of the story and the awkwardness when trying to describe the concept to people that aren't fans of comics or just the general public, Sex Criminals has been met with great receptions. Time magazine honoured Sex Criminals as the number 1 comic series / graphic novel of 2013. IGN tagged the work as amazing and said that the story is so addictive you'll find yourself staring at the last page in horror when you realise you have to wait another month to find out what happens next. Some interesting facts about Sex Criminals are that on the 25th of February 2015, it was announced that Matt Fraction made a deal with Universal TV to turn Sex Criminals into a television show. Secondly, according to the American Library Association, the hardcover release, Big Hard Sex Criminals, was the 7th most banned and challenged book in the United States due to being considered sexually explicit. Zdarsky talks about working with Marvel a lot in his interview with Near Mint Condition. As previously mentioned, Zdarsky's written Spider-Man Life Story, which is one of my favourite Spider-Man stories of all time. The book follows Peter Parker throughout the entire time he's been Spider-Man, but he ages in real time. Peter gets his powers at the age of 15 in the 1960s, and the story follows him all the way to the modern day, where he's aged into an old man. Throughout the 6 issues, we see stories with the Green Goblin, Venom, Ben Reilly, Miles Morales, and Doc Ock. Zdarksky's Daredevil began in 2019, and the synopsis states, Matt Murdock has clawed his way through physical therapy, but his near-death experience that left him crippled has left a mark on him. Reacquainted with pain and fear, the devil is back in Hell's Kitchen, but is the man who returned to the rooftops the same man who fell? Zdarsky's Daredevil is currently ongoing. Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man began in 2017 and ran alongside Dan Slott's Amazing Spider-Man. The story follows Peter as he reveals his identity to J. Jonah Jameson, stops an alien invasion, and travels back in time. I'd definitely recommend it. In terms of his non-comic work, Zdarsky has a weekly newsletter that he releases through his website, Zdarsko Inc. In 2020, DC Comics announced that Zdarsky would be among creators of a revived Batman Black and White anthology series to debut in December of 2020. Zdarsky will continue his Daredevil run for Marvel. As well as this, he's currently doing Spider-Man Spider's Shadow, with issue 4 being released in July of 2021, and a trade paperback being released in October of 2021. The story of Spider's Shadow asks, what if Peter Parker became Venom? Peter Parker once put on an alien suit that nearly destroyed his life, but what if he'd never taken it off? Ignoring every warning, Spidey embraces the dark symbiote. Haunted by the terrible nightmares and exhausted by the endless barrage of bad guys, Peter can't seem to catch a break these days. So, when the Hobgoblin attacks and finds the hero at the end of his rope and vulnerable to dark, new impulses, Spider-Man is about to change his rules. But is it truly Peter who is in charge? For Image Comics, Zdarsky is currently writing a series titled Stillwater alongside Ramon K. Perez. The series follows a town called Stillwater in which nobody dies. Issue 9 and 10 are set to be released later in 2021. Zdarsky is also currently working on a short horror anthology story for Image called Silver Coin. The miniseries contains 5 issues. The story starts in 1978 with a failing rock band whose fortune suddenly changes when they find the mysterious silver coin. Little do they know that fame comes at a cost, and the curse is always hungry. Issue 4 and 5 are slated to be released in late 2021. Thank you all so much for watching, if anyone is still watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and were able to learn something new. If you have any suggestions of creators I should cover, leave a comment below, or you can send me a message on Instagram. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more episodes of Beyond the Page. I also have comic unboxings and reviews on the channel if you're interested in something different. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!